are on different sides will tell you that their opponents are playing dirty politics and the other way around and vice versa. But in all this, there's that growth that we experience and we appreciate. And so I have two gentlemen from two totally different sides as pertaining to politics in this country, even though they appear to resemble each other. And so we'll be getting into this conversation. You can almost guess what side they align to based on what it is that they wear this morning. And so as we get into this conversation, we hope that, with the push and pull, with the conversations in support of their specific parties, what will be important is that we come up with, a conversation that is healthy enough to get us to points where, our leadership can pick some of the key things that we say to make the best of the aspect of leadership in the country. And so we have governance expert Dennis Nthumbi. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
His yellow attire would automatically, and green, would automatically tell you where he aligns. They say that the ones who are forming government, they've already formed government. I don't know whether Ben Kinuthia, Fanyamambo, who is a lawyer, would agree to the fact that they have already formed government, and not on basis of where he aligns, but on basis of a legal aspect, knowing that this is at the Supreme Court. Can Nthumbi confidently say that they have formed government already? He's a believer, so he believes and he has hope that, they have formed government. I don't know whether you'd agree to that.
A very good morning to you. I think it is wrong for anybody to jump. In 2017, we had a very interesting experience when the leadership of Jubilee called parliamentarians and MCAs and everybody to State House, and they started reading the Riot Act on how things are going to be run, only for the Supreme Court to nullify the election the following day. And we had to go to another election, which Raila Amolo Odinga did not participate in. So it is too early. It is wrong to even start imagining that they are already there. I saw Oscar Sudi telling provincial commissioners what they can do and what they cannot do. And I'm like, come slowly. It is never there until it is there.
Right.
And it is wrong to run and jump and think that you already have government. It is too early. We have a Supreme Court case. We have rock solid evidence. You can already see what's happening in the papers. You can already see things that are being said that Kenyans had not believed and imagined would be happening in this country. So let them wait, because we have a case that we stand a very good chance of winning if, of course, they do not use their orthodox means of doing things.
It is a question of faith, or it's the reality on ground that perhaps looking at the case that they have presented and the evidence that you have to count gives that this government you have formed.
Good morning, Linda, and good morning. It's a beautiful day. We thank God for giving us a great nation. We are a great people, and for giving us a peace that surpasses every understanding. In the midst of what our colleagues are attempting to do, God has given us an opportunity to build this country and establish a new dawn. And that's why we wear the colors we wear, because they represent a new beginning. We went through a process, the most open and integrous electoral process in the world. Every observer, international or local, attested to the fact that this was one of the most open elections that they have ever seen. I myself participated in the elections from pre to on the D-Day to post. I was at the polling station as an agent. I was at Bomas as an agent. I went across various polling stations. I participated in our party planning process. And one of the things that I saw, I've never seen before, and I participated in a few elections, is that this one was so open that we had so much work that most of the partners had not prepared for. Earlier on, I thought to myself that the larger segment of the election is within the polling station and is within the voting. But then I did know that the back end of the administrative process that includes validation and verification, the data processing is indeed laborious. And we thank God because as Kenya Kwanza, we had seen the aspect that we needed to prepare for, this data collection, the validation, the verifying, and we had deployed the entire process, which is indeed extremely big because, you're talking from all the 46,000 agents, you're talking from your constituency chief agents, you're talking about your county structure, you're also talking about your data processing centers and many other things. Then from the party perspective, you're talking about those ones who deploy on the floor of Bomas and all that.
Yeah.
And it was indeed an amazing process. For the first time, when you look at the precedents that was set in the courts, it was about the servers that were closed. IEBC just decided to just put the servers open for anybody
open
across the world.
Prone to interference?
Well, those are spurious, nefarious allegations, and it's important even for the media to school themselves on the fact that the process is tamper-proof. We did a lot of these processes with IEBC even before, and nobody raised a finger. And so one of the things that we thank God is because the elections in Kenya are indeed a case study on how open and integrous an electoral process can be.
Do you believe in
Linda,
that?
Linda,
allow me to finish.
Yes,
because
make it brief so I
don't
can
get
as well
jittery
come
when
in.
I say facts.
No.
Allow
we
me
need
to prosecute the facts.
We also need to accord him the chance to as
Allow
well.
me to prosecute the facts.
Let's be conscious of time, Nthumbi.
Well,
let's
I
be
mean,
conscious of time.
I'm sure you brought us
Proceed.
here so that we can prosecute the matter.
Not in
So
30
when I
minutes.
say a heavy point, don't interject. Allow me to prosecute it properly.
Don't you think that is already home, Nthumbi? That yes, you say this is tamper-proof, it's an open process and all that. Perhaps, anyway, in 1 minute so that we can allow him as well to say.
You don't need to get jittery when people discuss.
We're not getting jittery.
What I'm saying is that please allow us to discuss the truth because we are not here to lie to the nation.
And I'm glad that you say discuss because discuss means that he should be accorded chance. Nthumbi, proceed.
We are discussing facts.
Proceed.
We are not interested in
Proceed,
spurious allegations. It's tamper-proof in this nature because the Form 34A, which establishes the basis of how the elections go, and it's the finality of the entire elections, the Form 34A, which is scanned via KMSkit by the presiding officer at the polling station, in front of all agents, and all agents sign at the polling station. Observers are present at the polling station. The same form is scanned and barcoded. And when the form is scanned, it is then sent to the public portal and is sent to the National Tallying Center. There is no opportunity for any tampering or changing 46,000 forms and whatever it is that there is. The process in itself is tamper-proof. And we did many activations there about IEBC did that. And indeed, all partners saw that there was no opportunity. And the same results that are translocated via the KMSkit to the public portal and to the National Tallying Center, all agents are given the same copies, and one copy is put into the ballot boxes and another copy is pasted at the door. So elections are not an event. The election is a regulated process. It's a process that the oversight in itself gets to mark the Form 34A, authenticates it, and that's the same form that all agents check when the presiding officer is sending to the public portal. And that is what we went to Bomas to authenticate that what was sent at the polling station indeed is what is at Bomas. So the elections are not decided at Bomas. The elections are done, regulated, and closed at the polling station.
And that
is a process that all observers, in fact, when you check the reports from all observers, they allude to the fact that this process was open, it was integrous, and there was no opportunity for tamper-proof.
And you know very well that, yes.
I think, first and foremost, I have never seen such a massive failure on the part of observers as we have seen this time round. If anything, those observers should return back every coin they were ever paid by anybody who sponsored them to observe these elections. And if there was a way to put them in a room and beat them a few strokes, we need to do that. I participated in this election as a candidate. And I can tell you, you have elections where a person, and he keeps talking of Form 34A, which to me makes absolutely no sense. On the first day of the election, TV, that the voter turnout was 53.3%. All media stations reported that because that is what the Kim's kit captured in every station and sent. And it was true and accurate at that point in time. 24 hours later, we would hear of a 65.4% voter turnout. So a 2 million voter difference occurred in the course of the night. And I can tell you how. In one of my polling stations, we have these observers, call them international, call them local, call them whatever. They are failures. Because you cannot have 328 people being recorded as having voted on the Kim's kit, and the total number of papers being counted inside the box being 494. Is a huge disparity. There were counties where 40,000 people would wake up, get 6 ballots, vote for the president only. Where did they take the other 5? And you know, the way that process is, you cannot leave the classroom with the other 5 ballots. Were they stuffing them in their pockets? Were they throwing them outside the window? The truth is, this election management system failed. And for a long time, we kept calling him Chebukati Wauda. For a very long time, because we saw this from the onset. Huyu ni Chebukati Wauda.
Why Wauda? Why Wauda?
Look at it this way. Look at it this way. First and foremost, some Venezuelans are captured on national TV, carrying ballot materials. Some marked Dagoretti, by the way, where I was a candidate. And they're there. And these people, the IEBC comes and says that this is not election material. And then it is followed and everything done and due diligence done, and it is found that truly, these people were here to rig an election. But always, IEBC is coming to their defense. Right now, there was a ruling in 2017 directly to Chebukati telling him that you are not the national presidential returning officer. IEBC is. And it was very clear to him that these results must be announced having been accepted by the 7 commissioners. He still goes ahead, thumps his chest, and does exactly what he was told not to do in 2017.
But just how much is a previous ruling, important in any other activity that we make, if that is not enshrined in law? And I think I will ask this question
Precedents
again.
are law.
Yes, precedents are law, but is it that in all cases we'll have to go with the previous precedents? What if another, case would get us to a point where, a legal mind could confidently challenge the same? Then do we set a different precedents as per that one? That
I will tell you this. If the material facts in case 1 are similar to the material facts in case 2, then stare decisis, which means the decision of the court remains. And this is the same thing. He was told, please, these are not your results. These are IEBC results. That's why we need 7 commissioners. Otherwise, IEBC would have 1.5. And then he would make whatever decision he wants.
How will this ones then supersede what is enshrined in law constitutionally? And we all know what the role of Chebukati is and what the Constitution speaks of the IEBC.
Yes.
And the Constitution itself says that no other law supersedes this that is in the Constitution.
Yes.
Not customary,
Yes.
not even the Elections
Yes.
Act,
Yes.
and all these other ones. Let's take a short break and then come back on that very note.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you. Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. 1,000 people.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. Here's our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul.
Others bring to life the...
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. Here's our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the...
Welcome back to the broadcast. We have Kimani Kinuthia as well as Dennis Nthumbi as we unpack this. And so, do we take it from you to Dennis, or there's something that you'd want? Yes, we take it to him. And they say they have watertight case, and we also the tons and the boxes that were presented, and they're confident that at some point in time, while this was being celebrated as an open process that we all wished for as people, then at some point in time, a petitioner speaks of a scenario where this was extremely open, such that it was vulnerable, to tampering, as you rightfully put it. It was tamper-proof. In the event that they get to confirm that there was some bit of tampering, then what do you suppose that this Azimio side, forget about Azimio, you could overlook what Azimio is presenting on the table, but there are 8 other petitioners. We would say the Moses Kuria one, well, could be in favor of what it is that, Kenya Kwanza would wish for. But all these other 8, you want to tell me, in all the submissions they have made, that there's no way this can be annulled, that there's no case that is, strong enough to warrant a nullification of the process?
Thank you very much. First of all, there are 12 petitions in total, which one of them is at the High Court. I believe it seeks to get the interpretation of Section 84. But I won't go into that. It's by one of our legislators from Kisii with 3 other voters. And then there's a Moses Kuria one, which seeks to request the court to disqualify Raila Odinga from any hearing or any right to be heard based on the fact that he has committed, together with his team, criminal aspects to introduce insurrection, to tamper with the electoral process, especially at Bomas and other areas, and the court to look at him as a man who does not come with clean hands. That case is extremely watertight. We saw what happened in Bomas. I was there in person all the days. I was subject to kidnappings and many other things. But because of sub judice, I don't wish to discuss the aspects of what those ones include. But essentially what will happen is that majority of the cases are just similar in nature, and they will be consolidated. Because they sort of allege the same things, or whatever it is that there is. What Azimio has brought on board is dead on arrival, because elections are regulated. There's a process, then there are rules and regulations. And then what the court looks at is exactly those ones. Was there any violation whatsoever? When you look at the aspect of quorum in terms of voter turnout is captured systematically through the KMS kit. there's what we call logs. And the presiding officer is supposed to send logs at 9 a.m., is supposed to send logs at 12 p.m., is supposed to send logs at 3 p.m., is supposed to send logs at 6 p.m. when the polling station is closed by law. And so those ones are specifics that the court can be able to get. The court has a research department. I'm sure they've also engaged IT experts. Now, the main allegations which Azimio has put on board, which we say are dead on arrival, spurious and spurious allegations that don't hold water at all, is that UDA intercepted the Form 34A. And so when you look at the process that Form 34A is transmitted, then you'd wonder, it's like I'm trying to send you a photo. And so what you will do is that you will intercept the photo that I'm sending from the system, and then you will replace your same photo with another photo, and you'll also go through the 46,000 polling stations, send change the same Form 34 that has been pasted on the door.
But did they say the changes were done on all these other
specific?
Okay, all right. Proceed.
I told you.
But as you explain, I think it's only fair that you also accept that we, follow up with some questions for purposes of understanding.
Exactly. No problem. Yeah. No problem. And so, so the interception, you see what happens is that the regulatory framework has what it is that we call an advantage framework, that if there are any tamperings online, then the agents have the forms. The form is pasted on the door of every polling station. And the same form is put in all ballot boxes. And the same form is what tallies 34B at the constituency level. And those submissions are what goes to. So there is a process that for you to tamper, then you have to change all results in the 46,000 polling stations. Not only that, you have to find the ballot boxes and match whatever it is that you intercepted and did whatever it is that you can. So it's not possible. And by the way, you're talking about people who claimed they have the system. They made, very alarming conversations across the campaign period that, this election, we've taken it home and blah, blah, blah. But procedurally, it is not possible to tamper. And then the evidence they have offered in court, by the way, when you look at Githongo evidence, what he has preferred,
right.
Shockingly enough, Makau Motua provided these logs in 2017. These were the logs that were presented to Supreme Court in 2017. So even when they are lying, there is no intellectualism, there is no proper research. It's the same logs that were provided by Makau Motua in 2017. And also, they failed to adduce this alleged hacker that Githongo has said there is a one. The man is not testifying in court. He's testifying on a video that they are circulating on social media. So the alleged hacker who was hired by UDA is just seen on video, in social media and talking, he hiding, we're wondering who would look for a guy who is lying. And those logs of alleged hacking is indeed what was offered in Supreme Court by Makau Motua in 2017. So we are saying, the majority of the evidence says that there was tampering. The evidence provided is not even current evidence. The hacker provided does not even know procedures that were put by IEBC. The simulations were done. The simulations were done in front of all other providers thereabout. And by the way, it's important to say that precedence was set in the minor KI case in 2017. Minor KI case 2017 established two critical things. The first one is the definition of what constitutes the commission. Now we have to separate the commission and the commissioners. It is not the commissioners that form the commission in totality. The commission includes the queuing clerk that you meet that directs you to the specific polling station. It includes clerk number 1 when you get in to clerk number 6. It includes the presiding officer, the returning officer. And by the way, then the second thing it does is that it defines then what is the last, final, and legal call of the election, and then as it establishes that elections are called at the polling station. So the results at the polling station then establish the final aspect.
Right.
And if there are any discrepancies, the reference then shall be the Form 34, especially for presidential. The rest of them have the established forms at the polling station. So all results are called at the polling station. So the case that they have brought before the Supreme Court, number one, is a waste of time. Spurious, nefarious allegations, absolute lie. And of course, that is what my friend is doing this morning. And it's essentially drawing the country back. But most important, what they want is to get us into a constitutional quagmire. Remember, the precedents that Raila set in 2017, he said, even if you call for a rerun, I am not interested in participating in a rerun. What I want to do is that I want you to change the chairman of the commission. Now, Raila from 1997 has never accepted any chairman of the commission. So the president, Uhuru, who is exiting, enjoys what we call temporal incumbency. He cannot be able to hire or fire anybody. So essentially, if you say that Chebukati must go home, then what you do is that you break the right of the commission to do any administrative work at the end of the day. And then you get the country into a constitutional quagmire, which then we cannot seek a legal solution to untie that. It has to be a political solution. And that political solution is what gets Raila to handshakes and government of Nusumkate and whatever it is, and an extension of power by Uhuru Kenyatta.
Fair enough.
So we have to appreciate, as I close, we have to appreciate the fact that we have the president-elect, William Ruto, elected through a judicious process, elected by majority of Kenyans at the end of the day. And then the court, as a purveyor of the will of people, cannot then overthrow or rescind the will of people in this country. Kenyans decided that we don't want to be led by Raila Odinga, we want to be led by William Ruto, and then that sets the tangent
Fair
of
enough,
the law.
Nthumbi. Let's allow then Fanyamambo come in. Yes.
First and foremost, we have had a horrible history from the ICC cases of witnesses disappearing and witnesses dying and witnesses going through all sorts of things at the hands of people who pretend to be very holy. And that is why the Githongo case, much as he says is nefarious and vexatious and whatever, has done everything they can to protect their witnesses. We are losing IEBC staff every other minute. In fact, if you're in a county where the presidential votes were more than the votes of every other candidate, your life is at risk. The bulk of them right now have run away. They've switched off their phones. They are living in neighbors' houses because they know in this country we have gentlemen, needless to mention here, who can make them disappear and be found in a river. So that is where we are. We have people who pretend to be something they are not on camera, but in real life, they are more on steroids. And it is very, very, very dangerous for this nation. And that's why every person who was involved in this election process, including a mayor agent who was paid 1,000 shillings for the night, needs protection and they need care. Because we need to realize that we've had a history in this country where you hear some bodyguard just died mysteriously in his house, another one hanged himself, another one shot himself. And all of them usually are witnesses to cases. When you follow the track, these are witnesses to cases that would have had bad repercussions on certain people in this country. And this is what we need to get to. We need to get rid of pretentious Kenyans. William Samoei Ruto never won this election fair and square. And I can say that facing every camera. Because an election is won at that polling station, not at Bomas. An election is won at the polling station. When you have an international observer observing 500 votes, coming from a stream where 324 people voted, writing a report and saying that this election was free and fair, that's an observer who has got no right to even be on our soil, because it's simple maths, class 8 mathematics, that 328 cannot become 500. And then you ask the same observer, you sat in that classroom, yes. In your classroom, there were 30, 40, 50 people who only voted for the president. How did that happen? That observer has no explanation. Because when you do the total mathematics at the end of the day, the presidential candidates got a lot more votes than all the other people. Where were these votes coming from? Are they saying that there are people who came and they only got one form to vote for the president? So before you get to all those big legal words and all those big things, let's come down to the classroom.
Could this substantiate Omtata's argument that there's a possibility none of the candidates managed to get to the threshold, the 50+1 threshold?
In fact, let's not even get to the 50+1. As I said, when you tally up to 230 and ignore 60, mind you, the deadline was Tuesday the following day. So 60 could have been done. They very well could have been done. But Chebukati in a hurry to make Ruto his president because he's Ruto wa Chebukati and Chebukati wa Ruto.
Exactly what we would say, that the Chereras of today are more or less
the ruling,
like
the minor Kiai case of 2017 made it very clear that there is no presidential election in Kenya. The presidential election is held at 290 constituencies. And it is the tally of the 290 constituencies that constitute the presidential result.
But what does the Constitution, and I'm glad that you bring us back to that.
Yes.
What does the Constitution dictate also? Because
it's exactly that's the part that the ruling came from. That there is no presidential election in Kenya. The presidential election in Kenya is a result of the 200. I'll read for you that ruling.
Yes.
I'll read for you that ruling.
Yes, please.
The presidential election in Kenya is a constituent of the 290 constituencies. And I can tell you,
as you get it, can you say something?
Yes.
And make it very brief, Nthumbi, yes.
You know, it's unfortunate that...
It's actually here.
Okay.
It's actually here. This is the minor Kiai ruling case. The commission chairperson has conducted the election as though he's the national returning officer, a non-existent role. And his role in declaring the results were not approved at the plenary by the 7 commissioners. Not by the commission like he was saying, including the clerk number 1 to number 6. No, by the 7 commissioners. This is a pronouncement of the Supreme Court. Renders the results unconstitutional to an extent that there are Chebukati's results as opposed to those of IEBC as per Article 138(2) of the Constitution. So Article 138(2) of the Constitution is very clear that the commission's reports have to be approved by the 7 commissioners. So anytime Chebukati comes with his results, he is fighting with... Now, it ends here. Let me finish. It says there are no national presidential election in Kenya, but rather the presidential election is held at each constituency. What was I coming?
Which judge was that?
It doesn't matter which judge
I mean,
this
there is no answer.
Final decision.
And we'll allow,
this is the final unanimous decision that was given by the court. That
Proceed.
Yeah, you know, it's unfortunate to lie because I asked him which judge ruled that. What he's doing, he's reading the petition rather than...
That's not the petition.
It's a petition. It's the prayers that Kenya did. Yeah, the problem is that we come on TV and we pry on the ignorance of Kenyans that haven't read such petitions. Number one, we have a general election. The general election dictates who we are voting. You went to the polling station and you're given a presidential ballot box. What does that mean? That we have a presidential election. We even have gubernatorial elections that were postponed specifically out of the general election.
Yeah.
So you go to the polling station and you're given a vote for the president, and which even the counting starts with that. You're given the governor, the senator, the women rep, the member of National Assembly, and you're given the MCA, you know. And so the election being general in nature, then we have 6 elections to participate to, including the announcements of the results. The MCA and the MP are announced at constituency level.
Right.
The governor, the senator, and the women rep are announced at county level. And the presidential tallying center is announced at Bomas. So even if there was no announcement for constituency results, those ones are already done at constituency level. In fact, it is at the constituency level that the returning officers then take all hard copies to Bomas. You understand? And all elections are already done at polling station level. So even if you're voting for the president, you're voting for the president from the polling station level. And the minor Kiai case essentially defined the extensity of the commission. By the way, today we don't have returning officers and presiding officers who are temporal officers. That precedent sent the fact that the commission saw the necessity to employ them on permanent basis. So one of the things we don't want to do, we don't want to mislead the nation into reading a petition and thinking that the petition is what the judge called out to them. And it's important to understand that the role of the Supreme Court is not to negate or rescind the will of the people. It is actually an interpretation of that will of the people. It is also important to note that the commissioners have no right to vote what they should say. The commissioners and the commission is a conveyor belt of the will of Kenyans from the last back, and that is the polling station. And what the commissioners do, or what the commission does, not what the commission does, is the commission then tallies the will of Kenyans from the polling station level, and that is what they announce. The commission itself, by law, cannot vote, cannot take sides, cannot decide, cannot do anything on the vote. The will of Kenyans at the vote must carry specifics. And the specifics is the fact that you must validate. What is validation? That the Form 34A, specifically on numbers, has already decided the will of Kenyans on who the leader is. Number two, the process, which is we call verification. When I'm looking at that form that is on the public portal of IEBC, and I'm looking at the form that my agents do, I want to see that procedure and the process was respected, and that is the validation process, to carry through the will of Kenyans from the polling station level. So at the end of the day, let us summarize Azimio's case. Is that one of the prayers of Raila Odinga is that the Supreme Court should pronounce him as a presidential candidate. Now, how can you be pronounced as a presidential candidate when you claim that the process is flawed? Do you also want to be announced as the presidential candidate from a flawed process? I mean, of course, that in itself is wild and crazy. Number two, you claim that the transitory aspect in less than 0.001 seconds was intercepted by UDA somewhere. They changed all the 46,000 forms and pasted that. You know, the Kiambu, let me tell you something. I am an accredited trainer of trainers for agents, trained by the National Democratic Institute. It is not possible anywhere in the world to change what the Kiambu transmits. Number one, the Kiambu does not convert the Form 34A to JPEG. It's actually a PDF. You can't change the results. Number two, it is just similar to taking a photo. You understand? But you don't have, once you scan, the scanning is in itself protected. Number two, when it transmits in speed that cannot, and then the same form remains on the Kiambu.
All right.
Then the most interesting thing is this. It transmits as an original copy. So when we were at Bomas, and I didn't see my colleague in Bomas, he wasn't there, I was in Bomas all the days.
Crime scene.
Let me tell you something. At the end of the day, all Form 34As have security features. So at Bomas, this is what we were doing. We were checking for the security features. Even the one online, if you download it, you'll be able to see the security features. So we were not just matching numbers. Let me tell you something. Azimio never complained of any discrepancies
until the last
at the polling station level. If you don't do that, on the floor of Bomas, their number of complaints were 3. 2 of them, they did not even understand it is us UDA that had to prescribe the kind of understanding that there is. Now, the entire framework of the 46,000 agents that you're supposed to have for the presidential candidate, Azimio only covered 1% of those agents. They never had agents. For example,
but they need to be protected whether they had agents.
No, it's okay, but part of the reason why you have agents at least is you as a government with that kind of funding.
Okay.
And you know, why didn't you have agents, and the areas that you had agents, you never paid them? You know, at the end of the day, what was exactly the problem? And in Bomas, in fact, we were attempting to tutor their people because some of them did not understand. When they came to Bomas, they had no paperwork. And I can tell you, even the paperwork that they've taken to Supreme Court has been aided by DCCs and chiefs. And it was prepared on the 3rd floor of Harambee House. They didn't have any paperwork. When they came to the floor of Bomas, this is what we were shocked. We came with paperwork. In fact, we came with a whole canter of paperwork because it's a lot in itself. Yeah. We had saved it in disks. We had saved it in laptops at the end of the day. We had to agree with IEBC that there is need to establish a framework of house rules on the floor of the house so that, I mean, and all the commissioners, including Charera and those 4 disenchanted commissioners, took turns to supervise what was happening on the floor. When my colleagues, our partners, because they are our brothers at the end of the day, discovered that they neither have paperwork or any forms, then they went ahead robbing our agents on the floor of their phones, of their laptops at the end of the day, which is what we are prescribing in the Moses Kuria petition as attempts to introduce insurrections and criminal activities on the floor of a very integrous process, you know, nationally. So at the end of the day, Linda, it will be important to get the Kenyans to wait and see the arguments
that they're going to be presented at the Supreme Court.
The truth is going to be known. And unfortunately, the reason why I am very sad this morning, but I'm happy that we have a president-elect, is that our friends want to waste time for the entire nation.
You think it would be a waste of time, briefly?
They don't have a matter that they need to prosecute.
Jurisprudence.
But most importantly, they want to retain that guy in State House who has temporal incumbency so that they can continue robbing the country as they have.
What can 2 months, 3 months do really in terms of robbing the country?
We're not even talking about a process of this 3 months.
Kenya Kwanza will say anything to avoid accepting the fact that the results on the Kim's kit are very different from the results from 34.
And we're glad that this is the level of the court.
Number two, it is very true. Because the number of people also who voted for the president are more than the number of people who voted for all the other seats. And that is there. Even when you look at the numbers, without even going far, the numbers that Chebukati gave, and when you compare them, you will see there is that discrepancy.
But do they tally? Do they tally with the registered voters, the numbers of registered voters? Does it surpass that? If it does not,
this time round, there was some little intelligence. There was no classroom with registered, like 650 registered people that voted 655 or 657, no. But what happened, they played with the fact that the voter turnout was low. So it was possible to have more ballots in boxes than what is recorded on the kit.
Absolutely.
And that is clear. That is there. Because me, I'm talking of a petition that I'm already filing for my place, and I have the evidence. I have photos of the Kim's kit, and I have photos of what came out of it. Okay. Dennis Wawero, who vied as MP in my area, has everything. He's also done the same. That the total number of papers counted physically, just do simple class 8 mathematics. Forget all this mambo mingi mingi. Simple class 8 mathematics. What is in the box, what is on the paper, and what is on the Kim's kit is not adding up. So before you do all those other things, and for Moses Kuria, we wish him well, but he needs to remember, before he goes to all that mambo jumbo of Bomas, I was not there, and I'm happy not to have been there, but before he goes to all that mambo jumbo of Bomas, take him back to the classroom where he lost his election, and tell him to go and look keenly at what happened when he lost his election. And he'll be surprised that even the president got more votes in Kiambu than all the governors combined.
You don't even want to bring this story to the president because it will be total humiliation.
That's where he wants to, he needs to go. He just needs to keep going back to where he lost his election and trying to see, actually what the petition he should be bringing is against Wamatangi.
Hold it right there. Let's take a quick short break and then we come back and shift gears because then this is a matter that is in courts. We can only wait to see well presented on the Kenya Kwanza side as well as Azimio, and we hope to see such arguments that is at the level of the courts because that's the only way then we get the truth to this. So we take a short breather and we come back with more.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. Here's our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business. Farming. Tasty Wednesday. Fitness Thursday. And Feel Good Friday. With amazing DJs, celebs.
Waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
And music bands. Every munching. TV47, the home of untold stories.
All right, we're back, Nthumbi. And you know, this discussion cannot end. That is why I sometimes ask myself whether 14 days are enough for the courts to deliberate on this and present. But then again, when you say you have your facts right, and when they say they have a strong case to put up, I think we can only wait to see based on the evidence and how you are going to counter their evidence. Let's shift gears a bit and to the counties. And we now have governors, you know, with all this pomp and color in appreciation and celebrating and inaugurating them, you know, as we seek to see whether they swing to action and make the best of the counties. Mini governments, also to speak, from the national government, and indeed great faces appreciating the women who found their way up there. From 3 to around 7. Yes. This is one thing that needs to really be acknowledged and appreciated. We start off in the city, Sakaja.
Yes. I think first of all, to conclude, it's one of the things that I am very sad about, and I saw it in Bomas, is with all the resources that Azimio had, they had almost no knowledge of the process. Even the agents that they brought on the floor of Bomas, they were not aware that they were coming to do mathematical and ICT solutions, because the tallying itself is extremely number sensitive. The validation and the verification process, you have to be able to have some ICT knowledge. So these guys, they brought cheerleaders and GIA leaders at the end of the day. Then they discovered, oops, this thing needs to be work specific. And they failed Raila Odinga in terms of adjudicating the entire process from the polling stations all the way to Bomas. And that's why they were very nervous and anxious in Bomas, because they realized that they have failed procedurally completely throughout the entire country. And that is where they find themselves, in a precarious situation, having failed their principle. And I believe that Raila Odinga is extremely bitter, because the people around him, all they want is money, 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 and to buy new cars. When I went to Bomas, I was shocked.
How much of a plus?
My goodness, is this like a car yard? These guys, they had brand new Lexuses and whatnot. I believe that most of them are a bit richer today. And even going to court, I believe that a lot of it is a fishing expedition and a wealth expedition. It has nothing to do with
democracy. Let's not be so hard on them.
Law.
Let's not be so hard.
Let us go back to...
No, we're coming back to this. But first I want to understand, how important was it for the UDA or the Kenya Kwanza side to have prepared, to have had specialists, you know, great agents there, you know, with proper understanding of these processes? Would you confidently say that what it is that Chebukati declared was the final truth? If he declared contrary, what could have...
You know, one of the benefits that there are is that across the world, even you in your own house, you could just get your family and your relatives and the entire Kijiji and do the tallying. And even before he announces, you know, the elections are called at the polling station level. And at the polling station level, if you have an issue, that is where indeed you raise. There's something called the polling station diary. And the polling station diary records all activities and incidents at the polling station. Not only that, when there are differences, they are recorded, all of them, at the polling station by the presiding officer. And the presiding officer notes on all forms where issues were raised, where a ballot was objected, rejected, and many other things. There's a clear process by law that you can contest at the polling station, you can contest at the constituency tallying center, at the county tallying center. Before you get to Bomas is too late to try and raise other issues. It means that you are absent throughout the entire process. It's not an event. Even a wedding is not an event. You have to have courted the lady or the gent all the way from day one. If you discover on the wedding day you have made a mistake, it is rather too late, because you either jolt out, or you either call your wedding event a crime scene, or you do stupid things like those ones that they did at Bomas. But anyway, the truth shall be known at Bomas.
Yes.
One of the things I appreciate is that, and I was just discussing with a colleague, because the space that we are in shall pass. But we will continue expanding the political process. And I told somebody, I think what IEBC has done now to show us the extensity and propensity of data that needs to be processed is an opportunity for the media to grow. Data journalism, fact checking, and many other things. Because you remember that the whole media fraternity was impotent in terms of cracking the numbers. It was so difficult because many of the stakeholders did not have that capacity. And I think the media, the same way they came together for the presidential debate, there was an opportunity to put a consolidated data process together.
And do it together.
They were independent data experts that came through. I think there were Mwango Capital and others who independently, they decided to crack the numbers. And exactly what they had announced is exactly what Chebukati had announced at the end of the day. So because it was there, there's no tangent, there is nothing like division, just you and a calculator with a plus sign. You will be able to get to the end of it.
Can we say we wait confidently?
I think the discussions at the Supreme Court are going to be interesting. But let me tell Kenyans, go on with your life. This thing that Azimio have brought is gossip that they want us to adjudicate the entire country.
You articulate some of these matters so well, and then you end
No, I know, because I have already said their allegations are based on a... Let me tell you something. Okay, if you're a hacker and UDA hired you, you understand, at the end of the day, why are you not a witness in court? Number two, these logs are logs that are 2017 old. Call an IT expert tomorrow. I dare this station. Call an IT expert tomorrow. Let them take you process by process, because we did a simulation. This process that you're seeing, we did a simulation. Not one simulation, not two simulations, 3 simulations with all partners. And our colleagues never raised. And at the end of the day, how then would you know that the process has been compromised on the last day of the announcement of the result?
Let's be fair to Ben. Let's be fair to Ben, and perhaps allow him to answer that.
If I can answer the issue of counties.
Briefly, we come back to that. Let's allow him summarize on that, and so we come back to that.
I used to think that it's only Dindi Nyoro who shouts on microphone. I've come to see it's a Kenya Kwanza thing. And I've always said it's the content, it's not the volume. And the truth of this matter is that it's in court. Let's not get sentimental about it. The courts will listen. I am a constitutional law student right now. I'm doing my master's. Any court case that comes that touches on the constitution is an addition to our jurisprudence. It makes our jurisprudence richer, not poorer. So let this matter go through court. Let it be heard in court. And let's see the results from the courts. But I can tell you this, whether Raila becomes president or Ruto becomes president, there is nowhere that any of us is going. We are going to be in this country. We are going to stay in this country. Those who voted Raila voted for him because they thought he was the best to change this country. Those who voted for Ruto voted because they thought he was the best to change this country. So at the end of the day, when you look at all those Kenyans, they had the best interest of this nation at heart. So let's wait for the Supreme Court to make their decision. I will not want to trivialize their arguments, and I wouldn't want them to trivialize ours. I think we have a competent judiciary, and I want to submit on this station that whatever will be decided by that judiciary, I'll be the first to accept. I accepted the BBI pill for me, though it was a very hard and bitter one to swallow. I will accept this one. If Azimio wins, I'll accept this one if Kenya Kwanza wins. But I would want them to do the same, to know that the same courts that rejected BBI are the same courts that we are going to now. The same courts that trashed President Kenyatta's win are the same courts we are going right now. And it's incumbent upon them to pronounce themselves this very early
Deputy
that
President
they
has.
will accept
Yes, the Deputy
the
President
results
has
of the
done
court.
that. The Deputy
And the
President
beauty of when he says that, because I know how he works and he knows how he suppose works, when he says that, he already knows what the outcome will be. Next.
What are you trying to say? That the courts have been compromised?
Next.
No.
Ben,
of course,
you
The
are
Kikuyus have a
mind.
saying,
You are
a bright
new
person,
mind. And
a bright person has a shortcut to being told how
you are
things
not telling
going.
us that the courts have already been compromised.
Linda.
I
You
didn't
are
say
not.
those are
All right,
not
let's
the
proceed
ones.
to the counties.
My colleague indeed has a great sense of rumor. And
If not humor.
no, there's no humor. It's a great sense of rumor.
Okay.
And unfortunately for them, they are not even aware of the electoral process. Somebody from Azimio called me, they were very mad. Their colleague, or actually relative, had invested some 300 million in systems and a desire to put for them a secretariat. And he was sent to somewhere in Karen, and he was told wait at the gate, but it never happened, at the end of the day. They never put experts on board. They put a nefarious and very effective rumor mill around them, in the name of constitutional law students, like what my friend is saying, just perpetuating lies on air. And it was the same verdict that BBI brought on board. They told us that they are winning this election. They have lost the election, and now they want to take us to court in, allegations that they have a watertight case. They don't even have a watertight case. When you look at what Githongo is alleging, it can't even make it to the threshold of a cheap or a low-budget movie in Bollywood. It is silly even to look at it, and I'm saying the truth, because we have gone through many of those affidavits, and what we're asking ourselves is, look, we want to establish a government of all Kenyans, not a government of William Ruto, a government that functions for them. We will respect Raila Odinga, and we will respect the exiting president, Kenyatta. Why do they want to buy more time? And the reason why they want to buy more time is because they still want to continue with the things that they do behind the door, and that is robbing Kenya.
That Right Honorable Raila Odinga would want to have President Uhuru Kenyatta have some extra or some more days to gain what? I think it is
because the reason why I'm telling you, it's important. It's important that you've asked me this question, because the truth is
that the DP is enjoying the same.
Not quite. Let me tell you something. No, we have the status of the president-elect, who again is consolidating his government.
But still the status of the president.
No,
if President
there is nothing like the
longer,
status of a deputy president. He is the president-elect, judiciously elected by Kenyans and pronounced by the commission.
But then again, if President Uhuru Kenyatta stays longer, he stays longer, right?
As what the president, what the exiting president Kenyatta enjoys is called temporary incumbency.
Yes.
He cannot hire, he cannot fire. And that's the reason why we are saying that if you injure the commission further, which is what they wanted to make the commission impotent, is that then the president, who is the one by law who establishes the commission, cannot be able to do that. And then we get into a legal limbo, and then the solution will only be a political solution. That political solution is what has got us to the Nusumkate governments, and that is what.
Let's go to the.
At the end of the day, you're asking me why? How would Raila benefit with a prolonged incumbency of the president, even though temporal? But Raila has always been a project of him. He has enjoyed every other advantage that the government offers, and so he will get a political advantage if the stay of Uhuru is lengthened. And by the way, the political process that we are talking about, Linda, could take us all the way to 2025. And it's not a joke what we're talking about. And God forbid, thank you, you accept that, because we will continue with a high cost of living, negligence of law, of the rule of law. These issues of madarao, kifua kubwa, nini, system, deep state madness that is not taking Kenyans anywhere. These guys must accept that Raila Amolo Odinga lost this election. And Raila Amolo Odinga will never accept any chairman of the court.
Can we allow the courts to...
Let us allow the courts, and we have a lot of confidence with the court. We had a lot of confidence with the court through BBI, and I believe all through that the court indeed has established itself as a mature court going forward.
Right.
One of the things that we are praying is that the friendship that we have seen for a long time of, anyway, I don't need to go there, but it's okay. Now,
let's go to the
talk
counties.
about county governments. My prayer is simple for the county government. Devolution is a beautiful tool for this country. I am praying that the new governors are not corrupt. And if they're corrupt, Kenyans should go against them with every might that they have at the end of the day. The second thing I'm praying for is that we will be able to advance the law. Advance the law in this way. Number one, further delineation of duties. There has to be a clear role. What is national government and what is county government? Further decentralization of power, which is the third thing that I'm praying about. That the governors will be able to empower the MCAs. The governors will be able to empower the DNA of democracy, and that is the village. 10 families or 50 families that establish themselves together to define the civilization around their place. Oh, we want toilets, we want schools, we want roads. The governors must be able to devolve power further, not sit as small kings and gods and fiefdoms of tribal establishments that we have had. The next thing that we need to do is ensure that the national government uses the county governments as a measure of national unity. We shouldn't have the Pokots feeling as if they are lesser people than those ones in Nairobi, or those ones in Kilifi should not be feeling lesser people than those ones in Bungoma or Malaba or whatever it is that there is. So there has to be equal aspects of resourcing and many other things. The counties that are within ASAL, we need to see how do we empower the ASAL counties in terms of water, roads and other infrastructure that is critical. We must make sure that development is leveled and Kenyans are respected across the board, and that is the aspect of nationality. The fourth one, as I finish, is empowering service provision and enhancing local democracy. Let the will of people be respected in this country, and let the governors focus on service provision. That is my prayer, that the county governments will be able to work. Otherwise, we will lose one 5-year term after another 5-year term, and this country by itself, in its very perceived unit of production and development, will be made impotent by the fact that devolution will not be important to us as it should be.
And you know, there are those that have gone because they have finished 2 terms, and those ones are pioneers of devolution, and they will tell you that it's the best thing. But the same individuals perhaps would be going through court cases, you know, in future based on how they handled the counties. We have said that as we have devolved a majority of functions from the national government to the county government, corruption too has been devolved. I mean, what to expect from the new crop of leadership across all these 47 counties, acknowledging the fact that there's been that aspect of democracy to a point where even at the level of the House, there are about 16 governors who really do not enjoy so much of proper representation based on the parties or the coalitions that they align to. How do these ones really manage to steer their counties forward?
Thank you, Linda. You know, we have a huge challenge. And the challenge we have is that the bulk of the times I'm watching a majority that is wrong. And there's nothing as horrible as having a majority that is wrong and they are adamant that they are right. And then they eventually finish 5 years and say, we were wrong. Sijui kama tutatoa hii KIMS kit kwanza, tuweke kitu ingine ya kupima the sanity, the well-being, the knowledge, the aptitude of the voter, and to help the voter understand. Why I'm saying this is, at some point we had Sonko in Nairobi. I mean, the capital of East and Central Africa made Sonko their governor. They were wrong. We told them they were wrong. We reminded them that they were wrong. They refused to hear that they were wrong. I thank God that NMS came in and did something miraculous within a very short period of time. And it was visible and it was tangible. Now we have Sakaja. I wish I could tell Kenyans how wrong they are. I wish I could paint for them the picture of how truly wrong they are in voting for Sakaja. I come from Central Province. Politics is about interest. Before BBI, and I want to make it very clear, before BBI, Uhuru brought us 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. That was going to help the people of Central Province more than anybody else in this country. Sakaja fought 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, 11 times.
But why should it be about the people of Central?
I'm just talking about interest.
Every other Kenyan.
Politics is about interest.
All right.
Politics is about interest.
And that we're not growing to that level where it's going to be the interest of the nation as opposed to regional
I'm
interest?
talking about me, and this is what I'm saying. And I'll explain that. It is interesting that in this election, the people who lost the most from 1 shilling, 1 vote, voted for the person who denied them 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. People are saying it's the interest of Central Province. It's not. It's a national interest, and this is how I explain it. Masiga Kuria here in Kasarani was voted by 250,000 people. The Duales who are giving us direction were voted by 15,000 people. Now, it follows, therefore, that when Masiga Kuria was making 1 vote in Parliament, or if Duale was making 1 vote in Parliament, Masiga Kuria should have been voting 7 times because she represents 7 times more people. When you have a constituency like, is it Roiro or Juja that has 400,000 people being represented by 1 MP, and a county that has got 70,000 people having a governor in 5 constituencies, there's a problem. So for us, it was not the interest of Central Province. It was the interest of making sure that each vote is equal. Our votes are not equal. Because right now we have 400,000 people being represented by 1 MP, and we have 15,000 people being represented by 1 MP. So Sakaja fought, and that's why our people are getting bursaries of 2,000 shillings in Central Province, and other people in other parts of the country are getting 20, 25,000 shillings in bursary. So there is an equal representation. There is an equal. In fact, when you talk of ASAL counties, right now, if you divide the money per person, they are getting more money than ourselves in Central Province. And our President Uhuru Kenyatta saw this. And he tried to say, we are not taking away from them, but we are taking from the public coffers more money and adding to those who are marginalized and underrepresented and under-resourced.
Okay.
So this Sakaja who fought us is the person the Kikuyus have killed in Nairobi and so willfully voted for. And I can tell you, the last thing about him, which makes me feel, and you go do your research, there are people who have occupied public offices today who owe debts, political debts, to certain minorities who funded their campaigns.
Okay.
And they have to pay to those minorities. Watch his cabinet. Watch his tendering process. Watch his everything. He's more indebted to his financiers than he will be to his voters.
Perhaps some hard
Nairobi
truth,
made a mistake.
Perhaps some hard truth, but again, does it not disturb us that in this time and age where we have really done well in terms of growth of democracy, that today we can speak of interest to such lowly levels?
Linda.
How low?
The whole of...
Not really, because we're looking at, you know...
No, sorry, all we are saying, Linda, is that we have some Kenyans who are benefiting more from the government than others. 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote is exactly that. It was not saying Central Kenya, more shillings, more money. It was saying that every Kenyan in this country, once you divide what is distributed, must get equal.
But also
so
lowly, because if you have to go in there
yourself.
to address the questions of the people, but
Linda,
then you address the questions of the
Linda.
finances, don't you think that also is a problem?
The
And that's why I think
Linda,
finances
my friend is
Yes.
contradicting himself. And that's the reason why, if you follow an academic and a leadership dwarf like Uhuru Kenyatta, who misleads you.
That's a little bit. That's
No. Allow me please to, because you
That's a little
know,
bit misplaced.
No. This is my word, and I share the liability.
And it is me to protect whoever is not here to protect themselves.
Proceed. That is my.
That is your
exiting
position, but this also.
So
is
let
my
me tell you
space to
something.
protect.
Allow me, please listen.
Proceed.
Every public
Proceed.
servant is answerable and subject to every citizen of this country. Don't be infected by this disease of dynasties that you need to protect them. From what? They are spending our money and adjudicating our nation. So they're answerable to everybody. And I'm saying, unfortunately, this 1 man, 1 shilling has misled the mountain. That's the reason why the mountain is more clever than these petty discussions. Now, there are 2 formulas when we talk about fiscal allocation. There's what we call, there are 2 aspects when you talk about fiscal allocation. My colleague needs to conform himself to chapter 12 of the Constitution. Now, there's what we call the platform of formula and basis. The Constitution is prescriptive of basis. And unfortunately, I don't know why, you know, the problem with being on set with these guys is that they want to draw you into an argument that is not necessary. Now, when you look at the basis of why we put together the Commission of Revenue Allocation, when you look at all the discussions that we have in the country, it is important to note that the Kikuyus, because I am one of them, who live in Mount Kenya, are 30% in their entirety in terms of population. It's important to note that this country, what we talk about is equity, equitable share of revenue. And that is what forms the basis of equity share. It is important to note that Uhuru Kenyatta's government lied to people through BBI so that he can get an expanded head. It is easy to then raise allocation to counties from the basic of 15% to 35%. It is also important to note several facts in terms of revenue allocation. Majority of the arguments that we had in terms of representation are inaccurate and extremely. For example, let's talk about Nairobi. Nairobi has the majority of the equitable share. The largest community in Nairobi is Kikuyu.
Yeah.
Should they benefit or not? They should benefit. You understand? What are the interests that the Kikuyus are interested in? When you talk about bursary, the Kikuyus hate bursary because it's an indication of poverty. Why does the government need to give me 2,000, 5,000, even 20,000 shillings to educate my children? Please, give me an opportunity to grow my coffee. Give me an opportunity to grow my agriculture. Give me an opportunity to earn a decent living at the end of the day. The Kikuyu person does not survive on subsidies and food stamps from the government, what they have been giving us, unga from State House. That's the reason why unanimously all the 10 counties of Mount Kenya evicted Uhuru Kenyatta's leadership. And when we talk this, us from Mount Kenya, we get very upset because we are being painted as selfish, vindictive people across the country. We must indicate that Kenyatta is not the representation of all Kikuyus.
And I'm glad that the two of you are from this region. And I'm glad that the two of you are from this region.
We need to desist from this tribalism when we talk about equitable share. All Kenyans are equal in the eyes of God and in the eyes of the Constitution.
After this
break,
this
is the thing that puts the Kikuyus in Garissa in a precarious situation. The Kikuyus in other nations, in other counties. But it doesn't mean that since I'm a Kikuyu, I'm only entitled to Murang'a and Kiambu and other areas. No. I'm a Kenyan, I should live peacefully in Garissa.
Let's take a short break. Let's take a short break and then
so at the end of the
about
day,
10 minutes close.
Please, our arguments, we must be centric upon the law. Chapter 12 of the Constitution spells equitable revenue share or allocation on the form of basis, not formula.
After this break, we come back to you.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
Well, do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates, Baraza la Siasa,
hiyo kitu azungumzie, aangalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions, business, farming, Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
Cheza ratiba yako. Kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers, as we know agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Minutes, gentlemen. You know, I don't want to make this as though it's a debate and therefore tell you 1 minute, 1 minute. Let's try and balance this so at least we wind up on a very good ground. But hopefully we'll get another time to as well articulate so much so that we would have today, Father. So yes, we come to you.
Linda, we were talking about equitable sharing of the national cake, which our friends don't get to understand. We are not saying that the people of Central Province need handouts. We are not saying that the people of Central Province are so impoverished that they need it. But if you are giving bursary to someone in Garissa, let it also be available to someone in Central Province. And if they are getting 10,000 shillings, let the other Kenyan also get 10,000 shillings. You can reverse, you can put Garissa where Central is and Central where Garissa is, still it's an equal. And we want to be equal. In the revenue sharing formula he was talking about, population had been given a very small percentage. And this is the problem we had. That areas that are vast, and you know, it's not the vastness that brings money to the national kitty. It's the work of the people, it's the resource, it's the taxation of the people. So the more you are, the higher the amount of taxes that you're going through, and so on. And so what we are trying to tell these people, I personally feel that Sakaja would not have made the best governor for Nairobi. The public can come in their majority. They can ask for Barabbas over Jesus. It doesn't make Barabbas better than Jesus. It just makes him the choice of the people.
That together would have been the best.
And after, time has always got a way of vindicating the decisions we make. I am one person who refused to vote for Sonko, much as there was that crazy wave. Time has proven that this was the wrong leader for Nairobi. I am one person who is saying on national TV before even Sakaja begins, that this was a huge mistake. The majority had their way. The minority had their say. But at the end of the day, the decision was wrong. Look at Central Province. Look at the person who replaced Kanini Kega, a person who did 400 kilometers of road in his constituency. Usiwai peleka hasira kwa ballot. I have always told people that. In the ballot, you take hope. You take aspirations, you take dreams, you take what you want your future to be. Sio makasiriko.
Perhaps the biggest mistake that the mountain has done,
you've
as
they
they
would say,
that
they
did to punish
President Kenyatta. The tone with these people,
President Uhuru Kenyatta.
The tone with these people, as I finish, then as I finish, then he comes in.
Yeah.
The tone in these people is kuna watu wanaitwa deep state, madynasty, matajiri, watu wabaya, watu wa Uhuru, na Uhuru ni mubaya na lazima waende. Na hata kama, and you heard this guy from Limuru, the sentiments he said, hata sijui, that animal I don't want to mention, vies on a UDA ticket in Central, it's going to get. That protest vote, that anger vote, that decision that is made out of rage is so regrettable. You've heard of people who've hacked their wives or stabbed their husbands. It's because you make a decision in rage and then regret for 5 years. I have always told people, the ballot, mtu hapeleki hasira. Take time, breathe in, breathe out. Make a sensible decision. Party notwithstanding. You'd rather even vote for an independent, but vote for a good leader. But I can tell you, there are many who have been swept in the UDA wave. Wameokota kila kitu, imejazwa kwa hiyo ballot. You wait and see the next 5 years.
And true to it, as you respond to him, it would be ironical and absurd to imagine that a protest vote against President Uhuru Kenyatta would really do anything much to hurt the president.
Linda, by the time I'm leaving here, I will inoculate you against the lies of our colleagues. Because when you ask a question like that, you've already believed.
But let's just be realistic. President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Now, get the facts from me.
Yeah.
President Kenyatta is exiting. We voted for him twice.
Thrice.
In fact, thrice.
Yeah.
Repeat. We did not
Special
protest.
president 3 times.
We know him. He's our son. He's our brother. He did not surprise us. We expected him perhaps to perform in the manner that he performed. He only confirmed who he is. And this time round, Uhuru Kenyatta is not the president. We made a choice. Who are we protesting against? Is he on the ballot?
You are the one who told
Is he an
that.
MCA?
You're the one who told
I did not say that
we
protest.
mentioning him.
You understand? I never said that we are protesting against Uhuru Kenyatta. It's a democracy. We made a choice. And the choice we made is on Article 43, socio-economic liberation of the mountain. That is what we're interested in. We're interested in a government that will respect the micro farmer. Today, farmers in Mount Kenya in the 10 counties are starving. There have been policies that have had us not do potatoes well, peas well, and many of those things. Today, the milk farmer in Central cannot be able to sell their milk effectively because there are companies that have been put in place that are oppressing market democracy in the same. We want to breathe socioeconomically. We are not interested again in the life of Kenyatta and many other things. So at the end of the day, it is not a protest. We have voted in economic liberation. Now, one of the things that I want to, my colleague seems, and my brother seems to have a tiff with Sakaja, and some politicians are like that. But in having that tiff and hate for Sakaja, he wants to rationalize it as a Kikuyu versus Luhya issue, which is tribalism on national air. I voted for Sakaja. I am not Luhya. I never see anyone as their tribe. You understand? And we have the county government that will keep Sakaja accountable. Article 1 of the Constitution, all articles that support public participation, all of us who live in Nairobi, we will have him to be accountable. He has promises, he must deliver. We did not vote him on the basis of friendship. We voted him on the fact that he is a servant, that we need him to deliver for the people of Nairobi and for the county of Nairobi. And we want him to be the one that restores back dignity into our great county of Nairobi, and which we call the Jerusalem of politics. The man votes on tribal basis, we vote on leadership values.
Is it?
And that is the principle, because he brought in tribalism into the show. I voted for William Ruto. He's challenging, you know, but I voted for him based on the fact that the bottom-up economic model will be able to raise the livelihoods of my immediate people. And I don't have to be poor consistently because I have to do harambes for medical bills and whatever, because the coffee is not farming. The coffee industry is not working. We have milk cows, we have nowhere to sell. The prices are so terrible. The market has been captured and many of those things. It is important as a nation, we conform ourselves again to chapter 12, which speaks on public finance. And part 1, principles and framework of public finance, adjudicate something important. The following principles shall guide all aspects of public finance in the Republic. There shall be openness and accountability, including public participation in all financial matters. I expect you in your county from today, that the governors have been sworn in yesterday, you need to be a participant in every planning aspect, because no county government is supposed to do anything, publish anything without your okay. The second thing which is important is that public finance system shall promote an equitable society, and in particular, the burden of taxation must be shared. Revenue raised nationally shall be shared equally among its national and county governments. Revenue raised nationally. This is the, you don't need BBI. And this is what he says. That it gets to the, you know, let me tell you something. This is, I want you to hear this, and I want Kenyans to say this. Right. Revenue raised nationally shall be shared equitably among its national and county governments. It means as we stand, Uhuru Kenyatta would have gone 50-50 on the county governments. That lie, one man, one shilling, and whatever it is. This is the law. In conclusion, number 3 says, expenditure shall promote the equitable development of the country, including by making special provisions for marginalized groups and areas. I can tell you, Do you know
that
marginalization is not location-centric? There are areas within the 10 counties of Mount Kenya that there's serious marginalization. You know, at the end of the day, I want people to come and tour the 10 counties and tell us really. The fact that a consolidated dynasty approach has given us 30 years of presidency, whether there has been any benefit to us. What we want is a government that respects Chapter 12 of the Constitution and gives us money that is requisite to our development and to our prosperity.
All right, Ben, as we sum it up, and I think...
Quickly. Someone is quick to mention the word equitably with a lot of English. And to forget that
with what is enshrined in...
I have just read the Constitution.
He forgets.
I have not read it from my notes.
This is what I'm coming to.
So, you know.
And it's hard to reason with Kenya Kwanza, Kenya Kwisha. You look at it this way. 250,000 voters are getting 100 million in CDF. 15,000 voters are getting 100 million in CDF. So there's no equitable. There's nothing like equitable about that.
And perhaps we need
in
to strike a balance
South,
to
we are 117,000. We get 104 million. Come to Kasarani.
We keep talking about
we get 107 million. Listen, there are 250,000 of them. It's not equitable. And that's why we said 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. So that when you have such a huge population, taking care of the needs, if you have 3 children in your house, taking care of their needs is not the same as taking care of the needs of 1 child. The numbers matter, the numbers matter, the number will always matter. That's why I'm telling them, as you read the Constitution, start applying it rationally. That a person with 3 children in the house should not get the same budgetary allocation as a person with 7 children in the house. Because the shirts to be bought are more, the uniforms to be bought are more, the school, the food, the feeding is different. And that's why when these people come, you tell them, okay, we have read the Constitution, it says equitable. So let us split some of these constituencies and increase them, or find a way to allocate more resources to those populations that are higher with less allocation.
As we close, 30 seconds.
You know, my colleague say he reads the Constitution, but I bet that he reads Mills and Boons and then comes to speculate the same.
Why do you argue that way?
Because, please, conform your arguments to the Constitution. The national planning and budgeting process plans per head.
No.
It doesn't matter where you are. It includes the homestead. That's the reason why we do census. You understand? It includes the homestead as the basic planning unit. No, it is true. It includes the homestead as the basic planning and budgeting unit in the country. Homestead. So the homestead, when you have 10, they are allocated. When you have 12, they are allocated. It doesn't matter where you are in the country, because Kikuyus are not only confined to the 12 counties. I am one. I live in Nairobi. Are you saying that I should be excluded until I go and live there? This sectorization, this polarization of our country, these lies and innuendos, please read chapter 12 of the Constitution. When you read chapter 12 of the Constitution, you will know. For example, my family is mixed. I'm not married to a Kikuyu. What am I going to tell my children when I was sharing a platform with him and, you know, he is vindictive against them? The Constitution rationalizes all of us. The Constitution gives us equal rights. The Constitution says what you as a national government collect, share 50-50. What you as a national government budget for, share 50-50.
Perhaps so this issue
of, by the way, this issue of Uhuru Kenyatta, who is allegedly the champion of 1 man, 1 shilling, he only confined himself to 15%.
Perhaps next
Yet
time,
the law is already prescriptive.
Next time, perhaps we'll get to the levels of this talk of marginalization, understand what exactly that is, understand why a member of parliament of Ruto would be crying foul, because he represents very many people in comparison to,
foul.
yes, they have.
And by the way, CDF in itself,
I would want to understand.
CDF has been criminalized because it doesn't sit well within the law.
Right.
And CDF was touching 2 areas. CDF is a national government fund. And the national government fund was medicating 2 things, education and security.
Let's close this.
So in saying that, you understand, why do you need to give a small percentage on education through CDF and a small percentage security when the Constitution prescribes 50%?
for this?
Itself is nefarious.
Well, question.
Good
question.
Well,
because we also understand very well that as these members of parliament cry foul, their sole mandate as prescribed in the constitution is oversight, legislation.
Let members of parliament push
and therefore,
50%.
when they tell the people down on ground that
pennies.
you're 500 and we are representing you somewhere, then we ask, we put a question mark then.
50%,
yes.
unfortunately,
right,
does not look at the fact that, and I'm not saying just in Central Province, there are areas even in Western where you find their allocation to a specific, even if it was to go to ward development, if you were to break this money down and take it to every ward, you'll still find that there are wards that have got more populations than others. Come to, for example, Ruto ward. Ruto ward has 47,000 voters. That is twice the number of votes that Duale gets in his whole constituency. How much money does Ruto ward get? And this is the conversation we need to have.
Linda,
you come to wards, like you come to wards that have 60,000 people.
You know, my colleague doesn't know that
it's
okay. Session paper 2 that was produced by...
When Sudi reads for you the constitution, these are the results.
The tomboy, you know, unfortunately...
it shouldn't be about Sudi, it should be about an individual reading their own constitution. Yes.
So clearly he knows something you don't. And, you know, the guy is intelligent by his own self.
And he's done well for his people,
he's
as
done
they
well.
would
By
say.
the way, he's people need to go to his constituency.
He's just a county commissioner.
You understand?
And he's an MP.
Now, let me tell you something. What is so wrong with us pushing 50%? You know why? The session paper 2 established an imbalanced system of development. And that is what we have broken down as Kenya Kwanza and said, you know what? We will focus on the bottom-up economy model that equates the country according to Chapter 12 of the Constitution. It means that we want to look at other areas in the country also as frontier areas.
Okay.
You understand? The fact that this country, the development is 3% of the entire location. Why can't we expand our country to at least 60%? Why can't we say, government, the constitution says 50%. Why just push 50%? When you push that 50%, one of the things that the counties are violated, which is by law, is that they are spending more on expenditure than development at the end of the day. If you move them from the 15% now within Ruto's government, even to a 35%, you give them more money nationally.
All right, let's cross over to Budesco Fredia. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Dennis Nthumbi, and yes, governance expert as well as Wakili Kimani Kinuthia. Thank you.
Asante sana.
All right.
You know,
after all said and done, they like the handshake. Okay, Budesco.
I will remember you in our Azimio government.
No, I'll call you for the swearing in of William Ruto.
That one I'm not attending.
In the retirement, we don't want to retire. We want to